and demonstrating in the streets, and there's a good reason why, and we're going to get into it shortly, but it's kind of similar to a lot of the situations you've seen in the United Kingdom or England with the protests against immigration policies. Now, a lot of folks are blaming the situation that has caused this rioting and demonstration in Ireland. They're blaming it on their immigration policies, and we're going to talk about why, but I want to explain exactly what happened first that was kind of like the flame or the match that lit this powder keg on fire. So on October 20th of 2025, allegedly there was a 10-year-old girl who was entrusted to the care of a Irish child and family agency that's responsible for vulnerable youth, and the agency's name was Tusla. Now, this 10-year-old girl essentially was apparently walking around near Garter Lane, which is a nondescript residential street near a hotel called City West Hotel, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the hotel in a second. Now, here's where things get kind of weird. So that 26-year-old man first arrived on the shores of Ireland 6 years prior, seeking international protection. Essentially, he was there seeking asylum from his nation that he was from. Now, his asylum claim was rejected in 2024, and by March of 2025, he had been formally ordered deported, a status that rendered him an overstayed, undocumented migrant in the eyes of immigration authorities of Ireland. Now, despite the fact that he was ordered deported, they didn't actually enforce that at all. He remained in Ireland even though he was told that he was supposed to be deported. And he was being housed among approximately 2,000 other asylum seekers at this City West Hotel in Ireland, which is a pretty large four-star complex that had been repurposed by the government just a month earlier in September of 2025 to house undocumented migrants. And you've seen this happening in like New York City and other places like that during various administrations where they have entire hotels that they're filling up with migrants from, countries that are seeking asylum and things like that. And they've repurposed it into kind of like asylum shelters. Now, the Irish state had doled out around 140 million euros, which is equivalent to roughly $150 million USD, to acquire and convert this hotel into a long-term migrant accommodation facility, which is apparently a decision that already had sparked some like frustrations at the local level from the locals there who were already wary of the influx of migrants, considering that they have, significant strain on community resources already. Now, that same hotel that had been converted into a migrant asylum hotel essentially was where this guy, this 26-year-old man who was accused of assaulting this 10-year-old girl, was living. Now, the young victim's name, the 10-year-old girl, whose identity remains protected because there's a bunch of very strict Irish legal laws that safeguard minors in sexual offense cases. She had essentially like slipped away from her caregivers during the evening time where she was walking around, and essentially she snuck out. And I don't know if she snuck out to go see like a friend that she had, or if she snuck out to just like go do something exciting and get out of the state care facility that she was staying at. But either way, she ended up near the City West Hotel, and that's where the assault reportedly occurred. Now, on the evening where the event reportedly took place, the man was arrested pretty quickly by Gardaí, which is like the Irish police, after the girl, who was extremely traumatized and in need of urgent medical attention, was discovered and rushed to a nearby hospital. Now, Tusla, prioritizing the child's welfare, issued a statement vowing comprehensive support for her and her family while coordinating closely with investigators. By Tuesday morning, October 21st, the man appeared via video link before a judge at Clover Hill District Court with his face obscured from public view in line with Ireland's anonymity protections for sexual offense defendants. Wow. I didn't know that they provide anonymity for sexual offense defendants. So there's your first problem. Those people should be exposed for the entire world to see, so that way they know that person should be shunned from society. That's my personal opinion, though. So he's charged under Section 2 of the criminal law, which is, sexual assault. He faced allegations of sexual assault and was facing potential penalties of up to 10 years imprisonment. Now, he had a court-appointed Arabic interpreter and was granted free legal aid due to his unemployed status. And then when he was like in his virtual video link with the judge, he said, quote, "I have nothing to say," when formally charged. The judge remanded him in custody without bail, scheduling a fresh application for Wednesday, October 22nd. Meanwhile, the Irish police issued a public appeal for witnesses, urging anyone in the vicinity of City West Drive, Garter Lane, or nearby areas, if they had been in the vicinity of those areas within 11 p.m. Sunday to 1:30 a.m. Monday, to come forward with dashcam footage or recollections that might bolster the case. Now, as word spread of this assault that took place, it basically lit a fire under everyone's ass. And by evening Monday, there were nearly 300 protesters gathered outside of the courtroom, which was a mix of locals, a bunch of activists all over the place, and residents, parents, and all kinds of people. And then they started converging on the City West Hotel's perimeter. Now, it started off as kind of a vigil for the victim, and it kind of like evolved or devolved, depending on who you ask, into a very angry mob, essentially, with demonstrators waving tricolor Irish flags, saying, quote, get them out, which you could hear echoing off the side of the building of the City West Hotel. Get them out! Get them out! Get them out! Get them out! Some people were masked and hooded. Some people weren't. People were like flipping over garbage bins. They're throwing empty glass bottles. They're firing off fireworks. Apparently, some people commandeered Garda patrol vehicles, and some of them lit them on fire. And then it kind of slowly got more violent. Like there was a police helicopter that started getting lasered by ground level agitators that were forcing pilots to veer erratically and avoiding blinding beams that could like cause the helicopter to crash. Apparently, there was even a group of men that brought horses out that galloped towards police barricades, where you had like a bunch of riot police with riot gear and stuff like that. Eventually, they had to mobilize hundreds of riot police in full tactical kit to form like human shield walls to prevent any more damage or destruction to property or anything like that. Apparently, there were 6 arrests made during that first night on charges ranging from public order offenses to assault on police, which by the next evening, over 20 were arrested after skirmishes kind of like reignited, drawing fresh crowds from the local area. Now, the Prime Minister of Ireland weighed in, condemning the situation, saying, quote, "The circumstances surrounding this alleged attack are of deep, profound concern. The state failed to protect this child, and that weighs heavily on us all," end quote. So at least he was acknowledging the fact that this was an extreme tragedy, what took place. Yet afterwards, he denounced the rioters, saying, quote, "There's no justification for this vile abuse of heaped on our Gardaí who risk everything to keep our community safe," end quote. Now, the protesters in turn have, continued to voice their grievances because they believe that the open border policy that Ireland has kind of had, where they've been allowing immigrants to come to the island and they've even been housing them out there inside of their hotels, they feel like it's putting their children at risk. They've had signs and stuff like that that said open borders inviting monsters on placards and screaming that and stuff like that. They've also got placards that say slogans like, quote, "Irish children first." And this is not the first time that this kind of thing happened. This is not an isolated incident. By the time October 22nd rolled around, the protesters set a police vehicle on fire, and that police vehicle is being towed away. There's a bunch of shattered glass everywhere, but there's a lot of unrest still. Now, things like this have, continued to spark debate inside the country, because apparently it costs 2 billion euros annually for housing 100,000 plus migrants on the island, which is like, I'm sure that the Irish at this point, they have a domestic homelessness crisis in Ireland, but they're housing 100,000 migrants, and it's costing them 2 billion euros, which is taxed from the people every year. So, I mean, I can understand their frustration. So there's a lot of looting, arson, significant number of arrests. They are likely going to continue to have debates on integration, deportation enforcement, and immigration out there. Bottom line is, I think that once it starts like causing harm to children, that's when people get really up in arms about stuff. And I would imagine if something like that happened in America, that people would probably do something similar, especially if it was something that could have been prevented by authorities, or if it took place near a hotel that was housing thousands of illegal migrants or something like that. So anyway, we'll see if they continue their demonstrations into October 23rd or not. But as of the 22nd of October, they've continued. All right, guys, that's it for the daily roll-up for today. I appreciate you watching the video. If you want to continue to support the channel, please like this video, leave a comment in the comment section below, and share this video with your friends. I know that the format's changing a little bit. We used to have like 5 or 6 subjects in each video, but unfortunately, the YouTube algorithm is not super fond of having multiple topics within one video. So we're just